Okay, welcome. Today is our Wednesday Bliss Techniques program meeting, and I'm happy that you're here. Thank you for joining me. And so we're going to explore a variety of things today, and all of them have one intention, which is to see if I can explain it. So the intention is to reawaken the sense of wholeness in you. And so wholeness has the same root meaning, derives from the same root as healing. So to heal is to restore a sense of wholeness. So we're wanting to restore a sense of wholeness, which then gives us the sense of healing, which allows us to feel better, function more efficiently, to have more clarity about what we want and why we want it, and how to accomplish what it is that we want to accomplish. So all, in my view, important things I would go so far as to say essential things, without which life has no meaning. If we are feeling bad all of the time, and we feel so bad that we are unable to do what it is that we're here for, what our soul's purpose is, then it's not, I don't see any virtue in that whatsoever. And oftentimes I think that the main message that I have found, the dominant message, I would say, is you just have to try harder. And I would say, I argue that that's not true. We don't need to try harder. We want to be more conscious. So the more conscious we can be, the more we can restore that sense of wholeness, and that gives us everything that we're really looking for. So that's the intention. And in order to help ourselves with that, there are some things we want to keep in mind. So obviously, somatic principles apply, which we've covered fairly extensively many times, but just to review some of the important ones, we want to be conscious in everything that we do. So we are moving all the time, whether we think of it as moving or not. There's nonetheless movement happening, and we can be conscious of that movement, and we can make the movement can be volitional, or we could choose to make it volitional. And so I wouldn't recommend that you go so far as choosing to make your heartbeat volitional. I think it's best that that remains unconscious for the most part, which is a little bit funny sounding, I suppose, but there is a cautionary tale about the yogi who brought his heartbeat under voluntary control and then died. So don't do that. But short of that kind of thing, there's a great deal that we are unconscious of that we could become conscious of. And a lot of that is what's generating in us the sense of a lack of wholeness or a lack of healing. So we want to, rather than trying to build strength or endurance or any of the kinds of things, even mobility, even the kinds of things that sounds, they sound nice, but we don't need to build anything so much as we need to discover what it is that's already happening unconsciously, and possibly make some of that conscious and volitional. So keep that in mind as we're exploring today, so, and always in your life, to the best of your ability, so that you don't fall into the trap of thinking I've just got to keep trying harder and I've got to keep doing more, and one day magically it's all going to be okay because somehow I've overcome, or however you understand it, whatever the model is specifically in your perception. Don't fall into that trap. See that you're doing something, and a lot of what you're doing is counter to what you really want. It's exhausting, strenuous, uncomfortable. So all of the things that you experience, you want to start to, I would encourage you to start to frame them in that way, because what you'll notice what's happening by default is that there's a narrative that even if it's not well defined, it may be well defined, but it may not be well defined, but nonetheless, there's some sense in which I'll call a narrative, that whatever is happening to you. So the pain is happening to you, the difficulty is happening to you, the feelings are happening to you, it's all happening to you. And, there's can be a sense of, well, then there can be a resistance usually to the things that we don't like. It might not initially seem to be important, but I'm suggesting to you that it's enormously important, and I'll use the same word I used earlier, essential, in fact, to healing, to make this shift, and to kind of reframe the experience. Because rather than assuming that things are being done to you, which reinforces a vicious cycle of victimization, it's really important that we turn that around and begin a virtuous cycle. And one way that I'm suggesting to do that is relatively simple, which is just to acknowledge that there are things that you have previously been unconscious of, that you became conscious of, and that you were able to voluntarily stop or change. Now, the more of those experiences you have, the more you really believe in that as a truth. Early on, you only have a few experiences to draw upon, and so it's a bit tentative. It's like, well, I'm not confident that this pain that I'm experiencing, for example, or the worry that I'm experiencing, or whatever the thing that you might be struggling with, you might say, well, I'm not confident that this thing falls into that category. I think this thing is different somehow. This thing really is something being done to me. It really is about these external things, and I really need to worry and struggle and have anxiety and all these kinds of things. So at that point, when the confidence and faith is not strong, you really need to draw upon, well, a little bit, you need to see that other people who you believe are reliable, truthful, and possibly intelligent. And I don't know that I qualify for any of those, so I'm sorry about that. But maybe Thomas Hanna, maybe Iyengar, maybe Ramana. Maybe there's somebody or some people who you can say, this person or these people, I really see that they are truthful, honest, and intelligent, and they are saying that it's an inner game, that the experience is what matters, and the experience is what's bothering me. The experience is what I want to change, and the experience is my subjective experience. It's what is happening internally, not what is happening externally. It's not my story about it. It's not about the other people and so forth. It's not even about my ideas of my body. It's actually about the more intimate experience, and that I can give my attention to and be very curious about. So this will really, I'm suggesting, and I won't belabor it, but I do want you to just understand that it can be really, really powerful and important, because, and particularly if you find that you're you're the sort of person, and I know some of you are, I know it takes one to know one though. So the sort of person who falls into that trap of just trying harder. So if you can notice that at all in yourself, then please hear this and take it to heart, because it will make a big difference. And know also that it doesn't have to be a long, forever process. That the thing that is the actual cause, we could say, of this of the suffering, the pain, the unpleasantness, the discomfort, and whatever else we might want to call it, is actually ignorance. So how long does it take to clear up the ignorance? Well, as long as it takes for you to accept the truth. And so the sooner that we're willing to allow that, the sooner the healing can be complete. So keep that in mind also, that it needn't take forever. And if it seems to be taking forever, then really sincerely ask yourself, why are you doing that to yourself? Not in a, don't make it like a mean thing. I'm not suggesting that, but just to see, again, instead of pretending or imagining that that you're a victim and there's something outside of you that's has to be overcome or fought against or outwitted or whatever, see that it might really truly be something that you are doing, albeit unconsciously. Okay, so with that in mind, so today we'll be maybe using some props. We're going to work on the face and neck a little bit, and I hope that you will find this to be really delightful and liberating. I guess one never knows what others are really experiencing, but I suspect that most of us have a fair amount of sensory motor amnesia in this area. So we'll start by sitting up, and we'll do some what might seem too simple things, but if you are willing to open to them as being enough, then they could be enough. So sit up if possible. If not, then don't. Obviously, you could choose to do it in whatever posture is appropriate for you. But find a way to sit if you can, that's comfortable for you. It could be in a chair, it could be on the floor, it could be on the ground, it could be wherever, it could be on a bed, but whatever is comfortable and where you can feel adequately supported. In general, as usual, firmer is better than softer to an extent. So we want to find that balance where we can feel the support under us and we're not overly cushioned, but we want to be also reasonably comfortable. So we're going to be giving particular attention to the neck and head. But of course, the neck and head are not separate from the rest of the body. So I want you to be aware, and all of this might seem like, I admit I do a lot of talking, but I also want you to notice that every moment, and this is really true, every moment holds the full potential of complete healing. And what distinguishes between receiving and not receiving that full healing is you and how present and open you are. So notice that every opportunity presents something. There's some content there that you can become aware of about yourself, your habit of how you perceive, how you think, how you react, how you zone out, impatience, whatever else may arise. And notice that you can actually be present and receptive. So to be present and receptive, let's say it has to be a somatic experience that corresponds to present and receptive. So notice what that is for you. Notice how you can tune into that. Probably it doesn't involve clenching the jaw. Most likely it doesn't involve squeezing the abdomen. Most likely it does not involve balling up your fists. Most likely we can say it involves a sense of alignment, a sense of centeredness. So we use this term centering or centeredness, and often we use it as though it was disconnected from a somatic reality. We'll say like emotionally centered, mentally centered. But how could that exist independent of a somatic centeredness? So we want to notice that the somatic approach is in many ways very direct and accessible, which is why I like it. If we talk about emotional centering, I'm not sure exactly what that means. I know it's something that people talk about. I know that it's an experience that can be had, but I'm suggesting that actually the most direct way to access that experience is somatically. So you notice, okay, the head and neck. So remember, I've suggested we're going to be having a particular focus on the head and neck. So you should have some awareness of the head and neck. And you notice that the head and neck is aligned. Well, maybe not, but could be aligned. And certainly you might imagine that it would be most comfortable and have the greatest sense of centeredness if the head and neck was aligned over the rest of the spine. Now, that doesn't mean that the spine is like a rigid pole, straight as an arrow kind of thing, but because there is a natural curvature, but that there's a balance. So you want to see if you can find that sense. So maybe you notice the tailbone. Can you sense the tailbone? Maybe you're not sure where the tailbone is. So maybe you have to start with, can you sense the buttocks? If you're sitting, and hopefully you have some sense of the buttocks. As we did yesterday, you could, if you wanted to, if you found, you're not sure, because if the pelvis is not stable, then how is the whole spine going to be stable? So if you're not sure if the pelvis is balanced, even, equal, and you're not sure if you're really feeling the buttocks clearly, then how can you know if you're going to be aligned or not? You have to have a stable foundation. So already, see, we find that the head and neck brings us to the pelvis. So we can't get away from the pelvis. We've got to give it a little bit of attention. So you could do, as we did yesterday, if you find it helpful, you could just kind of lean to one side a little bit and just kind of lift a little bit the buttock, so that you kind of just reach back there with your hand on that side and just sort of just gently lift it, so that maybe you can kind of feel that tissue a little bit more. Doesn't have to be so gripping. You can let it relax a little bit, and then see if that side can feel a little bit more stable, grounded. And then do the same on the other side. So just kind of get that other side so that all the soft tissue can kind of be freed up, liberated, not so stuck together and not so destabilizing on the pelvis. So now the pelvis maybe can really settle a little bit more. So you could now take your hands and put them on the iliac crests on either side. So I think everybody here live knows what I'm talking about. For anybody who doesn't, It's the pelvis. It has two hemipelvi, I guess. And my fingers represent the iliac crest. They kind of fan upward. And so those are what we would, I guess, call the hip bones. So you would find those with your hands and let your hand kind of rest on top. So you kind of squeeze in a little bit. I mean, don't hurt yourself, but gently just kind of squeeze in so you can notice your hands are right above those bones. They're kind of like resting on top, but they can kind of squeeze in because there's soft tissue there. So that's your waist, actually. So sometimes people have an idea that their waist is much lower than it really is, but this actually is your waist. It's way up here. Maybe you knew that. And good for you. I think that with each generation in recent years, I think that the sense of the waist is dropping. That's my theory. The structure remains more or less the same, but the sense, I think it has a lot to do with fashion, lifestyle, sitting in front of a computer and things like that. So hopefully this is helping you connect now, and you could just sort of massage a little bit. Just give why those lower back muscles there, they really could use a little bit of love, don't you think? So you could just kind of give a little bit of massage there. And notice that you can really start and on the front a little too, the lower abdomen, so that you really can start to free up the pelvis. There's no reason why the pelvis needs to be so bound up in all of that gunk there. It can be free to just kind of be. Now notice, let your hands come into your lap or wherever's comfortable, and notice, how does your pelvis, your buttocks, your lower back feel? Does it feel more stable? Then notice, can you continue to feel that connection all the way up, maybe vertebrae by vertebrae? And if you're not sure, well, just help yourself out. You could just kind of, maybe you can get your hands back there and just kind of feel for a vertebrae, and then just kind of bend forward a little bit, and then come up, then move up a vertebrae, and just kind of bend forward and then come up. Or you could do it more Hannah style, I guess. You could arch a little bit into to do more of a pandiculation and then slowly release. So you could do both. You could do the arch and the curl. But just see, can you start to feel then that connection all the way up spine and all the way until you get up to the neck? And you could do the same kind of thing here in the neck. You just reach behind. So try that out. You know, the pandiculation is really nice. So here you just kind of get your hands, see if you can find the vertebrae somewhere and put your fingers on either side, and then just look up a little bit and arch, and then slowly come to center. And then you could reverse that. You can curl forward and come up. And you notice you really should feel, your goal here is that you should actually feel things lengthening and releasing when you're doing this. So have that intention. Don't just do it just to say you did it, but expect that really a miracle could happen. I mean, I really want you to have that experience every time. That should be what happens. Holy cow, I'm experiencing a miracle. I really am. Oh my goodness. I'm telling you, this is very, very, very powerful. But you might say, but I've done this before. Yes, but you weren't really present. The miracle happens because you're present. Or maybe we could say the miracle is always happening, but you don't catch it because you're not present. So you have to really be here and kind of arch and into the fingers. Let the fingers kind of take up some of the weight, and then come slowly out of that. Wow, I'm feeling it. I really am. I hope you are. I can feel it all the way down from my neck all the way down to my lower back. So then go forward. You do it at your own pace, but oh my goodness, I feel like I'm a foot taller. So you do that, and then when you get up here up near the base of the skull, really do this a few times up here, because this is so complex right up here. So many muscles. And when you're coming forward, make sure you're letting the shoulders come forward too. Not pulling them forward, but letting them, don't hold them back artificially onto the spine. Let them slide forward. And then when you come up and then you arch again, you want to let the chest open. Okay, so you take your time with that. If you still have more to do, then go for it. And if not, then you could just take a moment and let everything, the arms rest, hands rest, and see how is this now? Can you really feel the connection between the head and neck and the whole spine all the way down to the tailbone? So now we just did that was totally impromptu. I didn't even have that planned. Now we're ready for the planned bit, which is, so now I want you to maintain that same sense of connection. Now you might find that this feels different than what you're accustomed to. And so you might have a habit that tries to reassert itself, that gets you back into the familiar position. Well, you know that you don't want to do that. So you have to remain present. So don't go into the old habitual pattern. One thing you can do to help yourself is you can use this, we talked about yesterday, Uddiyana Bandha. So a Bandha, for those participating in the power of perception, you will might recall that I had mentioned language and linguistics and the significance of all of that. And English is thought to be traced back to Sanskrit and possibly to a Proto-Indo-European language prior to Sanskrit. But Sanskrit is at least when I was in college, it was thought Sanskrit was that language. And Sanskrit is the Sanskrit, according to the I don't know what we would call them, the people who would know, the people who I trust on the subject. say that Sanskrit, as far as I understand it, is these are the fundamental sounds of nature, and that they actually are sound or vibrational manifestations that correspond to activity in various parts of the nervous system, so that when you actually have a deep knowledge of the Sanskrit phonemes, it's possible to produce any kind of activity that you want. This is so we could say, the science of mantra. So certainly beyond my pay grade, but that's the general notion there. So, but we can recognize potential cognate there. Bandha is like bind or bound. So it's often called a bind, or it's thought of as a lock. But I would say it's a bind is maybe the better sense, that we're intentionally lifting the energy right here, so that there's a sense energetically of lifting up, and you can feel it internally. So the sternum lifts, and the abdomen a little bit hollows out. You're not sucking in the abdomen. This is important. You're not squeezing the abdomen. It's simply that the distance between the sternum and the pubic bone lengthens. And so in order for that to happen, we have to release in the abdomen. We can't maintain that red light pattern. We have to release. So what happens is, if you were to watch yourself in a mirror now, when you do Uddiyana Bandha, then, and particularly if you allow for this Jalandhara Bandha, so that the head tips forward, the chin moves toward the chest, and the chest is lifting to the chin, then what happens is your thoracic diaphragm has to be used for breathing. And most of us are not in the habit of using our thoracic diaphragm for breathing, even though it's the most efficient way to breathe, and really the most desirable way to breathe, the way that gives the best health. And this is one of those things that we can, I know, because I've done it, we can trivialize in our minds and say, oh, it can't be that important, and it's kind of difficult, and I don't want to do it. But I want you to understand that this notion of prana, far from being a primitive one, is a very sophisticated and valuable way to understand and to begin to perceive. And the prana rides on the breath. And so we could say it's manifest as the breath at a physical level. And so that's only one of the ways. It's also manifesting, it's manifesting in other ways, but one of the ways is as the breath. So how we are breathing affects the prana in our experience. So that's one of those things that could seem, again, like a throwaway. But if you really start to reflect on that, you'll realize that that energy, or prana, is we could say the somatic body and the prana body, they're very similar, if not the same. So we're saying that you have this direct way, and it's a relatively subtle way in which you can produce change, bring about healing. So, and ancient from ancient times, it's been said by great masters and reaffirms many times in many cultures that this is the way. Do this. This will help you. But we don't necessarily believe it. I'm saying that we want to be aware of this. So as much as possible, start to be really curious. Why do you give up on this bandha? Why do you stop doing it? So you can activate it perhaps. And if you're not certain, you can do the kriya, which we've covered previously, in which you inhale and then you exhale all the way, and then you hold the breath, close the throat, and then make as though you're going to inhale, and it will create a vacuum in the abdomen, and or really a vacuum in the chest that will suck the abdomen up, and that will give you a very strong sense of the bandha. Now, when you just do the bandha without the kriya, it's not going to have that strong of a effect. Okay, but the same sense at a subtler level, so you can be aware of that. And you'll notice if you take your hands and you palpate at the just below the lower ribs, the upper abdomen, that this can be all soft, yielding. I mean, there's maybe some tone there, but it's not like a rock or anything. Okay, so then you might start to be curious, well, why am I having, why do I start to make this into something strenuous? So notice what you do, how you're making it hard. So if you relax the back of the neck, you let the head come forward, you let the eyes relax down, let the tongue rest in the lower jaw. Then what is hard about this? And I'll suggest actually not much. Turns out to be a much better way than the way we normally are doing it, in my experience. So it's just a matter of I'm not used to it. And so when I'm not used to it, my brain tells me whatever it tells me, whatever my habit is. And for most of us, that habit is this is hard. But that doesn't mean that it's true. Okay, so now now notice that when you're doing this, maybe you'll find this helps you to maintain that connection with the head and the spine all the way down to the pelvis. So now we're going to just see if we can maintain that connection. And we're going to turn the head to the right slowly. So I want you to really take your time with it and make it as easy as possible. So you'll notice that as you're turning the head to the right, you're going to really need to let go on the left side of the chest and shoulder and neck. That's all going to have to lengthen. You're probably going to want your eyes to generally move in the direction that you're turning the head so that the eyes are comfortable. They shouldn't be straining. And you still want to be able to breathe and have this connection all the way down the spine. So see if that's all what you can do with that. Let the tongue rest in the lower jaw. Let the eyes be gazing generally somewhat downward. And notice, is this comfortable? See, could you really just hang out here for a little bit? We don't have to hang out here for that long, but could you? Could you, at least while you're going to be here, could you make it really nice? And then let's turn back to center. And see if you can maintain that connection all the way down the spine throughout. And see if maintaining that Uddiyana Bandha might be helpful. So I've come back to center. Now you might have already guessed what we're going to do next. We're going to turn to the left, and I can already tell that this is going to be excellent for me because I can see myself on the camera, and I know it will be. So let's see what we can do here. Same general thing. We're going to try to make it as comfortable, enjoyable as possible, maintaining awareness of the connection between the head and the spine all the way down to the tailbone, feeling perhaps awareness of that Uddiyana Bandha so that you're not hunching forward, but rather you're able to feel a lifting up. And just notice whatever is different on this side. Maybe something, maybe you feel like you can't turn as far to one side as the other. I don't know. Maybe it feels a little bit uncomfortable on one side versus the other. So you can have that awareness, and then at your own pace, let's just go back and forth, side to side a few times. And I want you to really feel like, can you feel like everything is well lubricated? Like your head is really able to turn smoothly and pleasurably, that we did all that flexion and extension at the beginning there with the spine to hopefully give a greater sense of connection and fluidity. We want to see now, can we really just take that even further so that we feel like we're just very, very supple, smooth, lubricated. Well, let's try this now. Let's bring the hands to across the chest if it's comfortable for you. So maybe you can let the hands kind of rest on the shoulders a little bit. So that should kind of take help you to release some of the tension in the shoulders. Try to let the hands be heavy on the shoulders so that you're not trying to yank down, although it's an interesting move. So you could even do that. A reverse shrug. That is a nice one. So you can do that a few times, and then see, can you just keep that sense of heaviness, the length in the shoulders? And then we're going, so the back's a little bit rounded here. And now let's see, can you maintain the connection in the head and neck and the spine all the way down as you turn the head and the eyes to the right. And then when you get about as far as you're comfortable turning the head, you could start to rotate the torso so you can feel the buttocks down there, grounded, stable. Thighs are released and relaxed. And you're just letting the spine gently spiral. Maybe you find now you can turn the head a little bit further, the eyes a little further, spine a little further, and then come back. And go to the other side. So we'll do this a few times. And if you really want to get the most out of it, I would say pause frequently and really let go deeply. So what I mean is, for example, you could turn a little bit and then just pause and notice where you're gripping. So this is like letting go of the low-hanging fruit, and then turn a little bit more and then pause and let go of the low-hanging fruit. Or maybe you'll find like there's just a way that things want to kind of line up. Like I noticed, oh, my head wants to turn a little bit further before my spine does anymore. So I find that out by pausing and then releasing and then turning more and then pausing and letting go of the low hanging fruit, making sure the shoulders are continue to release forward and down. So, and then when you get to the extreme end of range, I find it's very helpful to pause there and do the same so that you really take a moment to let go very deeply. So that what happens then is, well, I guess what's happening at each one of those is a mini pandiculation. So in a sense, to do it in this way that I'm describing is better. I would suggest this would be a better, if you had 5 minutes in which to do this, I would say, well, let's say 6 minutes to make the math easy. So 3 minutes on each side. And then take a full minute to turn. If you did 3 of those, I think that would be better than doing it a different way. Probably. I mean, there's probably a more optimal way, some sequence of things that we could work out. But my point is, really, if you slow it down enough and you pause frequently so you can really let go deeply, these mini pandiculations, those little low-hanging fruit things, that's taking what's unconscious but marginally unconscious, it's making it conscious and volitional. So you're actually having the experience that is real for you, in which your nervous system knows, wow, I know how to do this. I know how to be aware and I know how to let go. I know that this feels better. So it's mapping that. Now, will 1, 2, 3 iterations be adequate to forever clear up all this stuff? And probably not. But if you do those 3 in that way, where you're getting that level of detailed awareness updates, that's a very good foundation. And then you can repeat it more. And I actually think that in my experience, once you've done it that slowly and you've really got it into the nervous system in that way, then I would say, I think the more of a Feldenkrais approach is very helpful. And what I mean by that specifically in this case would be, okay, so now you can do it taking 1 minute to turn. I mean, just maybe not, but just to complete the example. Then, okay, you say, okay, I feel pretty good. My spine feels free. My back feels like supple. I feel like my chest feels freer. My abdomen feels freer. I feel more connection. My head feels better. My shoulders feel better. Everything feels a little better. Okay, good. Now, let's see. All right, let's do it a little faster. Not like crazy, but maybe we're doing the whole thing in what, 5, 6 seconds, just to see what's that like. And then once you say, well, that seems pretty good, then you could try it a little faster. So you say, okay, that's pretty ambitious, maybe. So, but you just kind of see, where is the limit there? At what point do I really lose my ability to do it in a good way? When does it start getting sloppy? So don't go faster than that. Then you can play with anywhere in that range. Sometimes you slow it way down. Sometimes you do it middle, sometimes faster, and you kind of just switch it up a little bit. So then it's starting to really get into the nervous system. Eventually you do want to transition it so that it can be fairly rapid. Okay. Well, enough of that for now. We'll try to do the things that I had planned. So, but I will just say, I think that can be a really nice one. It's fairly easy to do. You don't have to have a big setup for it. You're just sitting. So you could do that one when you're sitting anytime. You could even turn that into a little habit where anytime you sit, or at least you could say, I guess it doesn't have to be like anytime you sit, because maybe then you feel awkward doing it in public or whatever. But for yourself, anytime you're going to sit in your place that you sit, like at the table or at a desk or whatever it may be, have a good setup for sitting. Whatever that is. You could sit on the floor, you could sit in a chair, or a stool, bench, but have a good setup that will support you. Because if you're doing this thing frequently, if you're sitting somewhere, you want that to be a good thing for you. Don't believe this nonsense of sitting is the new smoking. That's stupid. Sorry to say it's stupid, but try to be wiser with my language. That just popped out. It's not helpful. Okay. Because then we just start having anxiety about sitting is bad for us. But no, sitting can be healing. But we want to do it with conscious awareness. Have a good setup for it. Set yourself up for success. So think about that. And then whenever you're going to have a little ritual, whenever you're going to sit in that place, when you sit mindfully. Don't just fling yourself into it. Then take a moment to really get connected. Do like, okay, do this weird thing with your butt. It's just like, feel, wow, okay, that's weird. I don't sit down automatically in this good way, so I have to help myself sit in a good way. But that way you'll eventually learn what that is, and then you'll actually start to sit in a good way. But until then, and probably even then, you want to support yourself in this way. So then you can really feel like, okay, now I'm here. Then you put your hands on the iliac crest and just kind of feel a little palpation front and back with your hands, with your fingers. kind of help yourself to become aware that I don't have to hold all that tension there. I can soften. You can squeeze the waist a little bit, just kind of massage the lower back, help yourself to let go of this stuff that you're holding habitually. Then and you can slowly rock back and forth, or kind of make a little circle or whatever, but just kind of feel and get connected. And then you could do this extension and flexion with the hands on the spine. And really get up there into the base of the skull. And don't just like hurry through it. I mean, it'd be better if you're in a hurry, just do like one point, just do here, but really take the time to do it in a good way so that you can really get that nice release and connection. And then you could just turn the head. Point here being that whole thing, a little ritual that could take 1 minute. It could make a big difference in your life. Yeah, the question is this while maintaining the bandha? Yes, optionally. But I'm suggesting that if you maintain that bandha, then it will be good for you. It will help you because throughout, like if you notice, for example, when you're eating, that you are tending to compress in, get a lot of this red light stuff, then that's not good, right? I mean, that's not going to be good for your digestion. So to sit upright and have this space, to have the abdomen have enough space so there's length there so that everything has room, obviously is going to be better. If you happen to be, you're sitting at a computer, then same kind of thing. If you're like this, you're not breathing well. So plus you're going to be doing a number on your neck and all this stuff. So have a sense, okay, sternum lifting, abdomen is soft. There's space in there. That's the general notion, is you want to have a sense that there's space. Okay. So, but that just, and there was a question, will this eventually become a default? I suppose. I mean, you're developing the awareness of it, so that treat it like a game. Okay, don't make it like I have to, because that's a good way to destroy something and make it awful, is that you have to. No, don't do that. To make it a game. But the idea here is I'm making, out of unconscious habit, I'm making my life harder than it needs to be. And I know that that's the evidence that I have that is so is that I experience these symptoms, and the symptoms, so you could list off the symptoms. And the proposition is that these symptoms are all energetic. Like the experience of it is energetic. And so we could treat it energetically. And one useful thing to notice is, do I have a sense of buoyancy? And do I feel that there's a lift here, or do I feel like heaviness? If I feel that heaviness, or that whatever word you use, it doesn't have to be heaviness, but whatever that feeling is that you don't like, if that's what you're noticing, then you start to notice, well, energetically, that's not as nice as this buoyancy. So if you think of the bandha as a buoyancy, you could think of it like a knot that you're like on a rope. Okay. Imagine there's a rope going out of the crown of your head. and that there's like great beings up there, angels and so forth, who, just filled with light and love, who are supporting you. So you're supported from below by the earth, and you're supported above by the angels, and there's like knots in the rope that where they bind that, so that, like, you can feel like a buoyancy, like I'm being lifted from here. So it's like everything down below that could actually start to like hang down. You see, instead of thinking that you have to do something down here below to push this up, it's that this here is pulling you up, supporting you, so that everything below can just be free to rest. Okay. So we're a little bit long, but there was one, I did say to bring some books. I forgot to mention that earlier, I think, for the people who are doing it who will watch this on YouTube. But I want to go a little bit over. I hope that will be okay with you, because I think it's going to be worth it. Because the actual inspiration for today is this thing that I really wanted to share with you, but I obviously haven't gotten to it yet. So just one more thing preliminarily before we get to the last thing, the big grand finale. So the last prep for that is, now I want you to be aware of this forward and backward motion. So we turn head side to side, right? We can rotate side to side. Oh, we didn't do up and down. Well, no, we did up and down. We did up and down with this. Okay, so we did up and down, and we did side to side, but we didn't do forward and backward. So I'd like us to do forward and backward. And you could just, if you want, you can do it without the hands if you find this difficult for any reason. Although if you find it difficult to put your hands behind the head like this, then you might become curious as to why that is, because it doesn't need to be difficult. But if you can put the hands behind the head, just put them behind the head, and you're just going to resist the backward movement of your head lightly, very lightly with the hands. Shouldn't be strenuous, but it's just a little bit of resistance with the hands. And I want you to just draw the head as straight back as you can, so that your hands are here making, so that the head can't really tip back. We're not trying to tip the head back. We're just drawing it straight back. So it's going to kind of give you a double chin. If I suppose I have a double chin here under the beard, I can't tell, but it will give you that kind of action, double chin action. And just kind of let yourself be there for a moment, and just see how much can you let go of. So where is this action occurring from? And you can let the head go forward and then backward again. So you'll notice maybe you have a tendency, if you're like me, to want to tense up in the back of the neck, but actually that's not the right idea. So the hands are here to help us to remind ourselves that we can let go in the back of the neck. And really what's happening is that we're using these, what people call deep neck flexors on the front side of the neck in order to do this. And then you can slowly release. And this, don't let the slow release. Understand this is a pandiculation. So it's a very important stage of the movement. So this, and you can rest. This movement is also another one that I wanted to highlight today. And all the other preliminary stuff is really, really good. I'm glad we did it. But then this thing about the deep neck flexors, this can make a huge difference in your quality of life. So I would recommend that you do those also, make that part of your ritual. So don't make the rituals should always be supportive of you. I guess that's the one thing I didn't say earlier that I should wrap up on is make it fun and playful, challenge yourself in a good way, make it something where you're feeling that you're able to, there's an intrinsic reward in it for you, so that it's a positive experience, that you are motivated to do and to slow down and be present for. So whatever, if 60 seconds is too long, make it 30 seconds. If 30 seconds is too long, make it 10 seconds. That's better than nothing. And I'm pretty sure you could find a way to just do something for 10 seconds that is in a good way. That's the point. So that you actually feel good. You actually feel better. That's why eventually you should have to try to put a cap on it, like no more than 3 minutes. Because I've got other things I know I want to do, but I know this is so pleasurable, I'll just keep doing it for a long time. So no more than 3 minutes. I got to move on. That's the general idea, is that it should be really good in that way. So aim for that. Okay, so this deep neck flexion can make a big difference in terms of the organization of how the muscles coordinate on the front and back of the body. And so like abdominal tension, deep lower abdominal tension, tension in the groin and the buttocks, lower back, all of that can be connected to sensory motor amnesia in these deep neck flexors. A lot of people, because we're doing this, they call that forward head posture. So we tend to have sensory motor amnesia in these deep neck flexors. So this, with the light but noticeable resistance in the hands, so that you're gently pushing the head forward, and you are just releasing into that when the head comes forward and then back. And really be aware of all of the sensations and make it pleasurable. It can be, particularly if you have a lot of sensory motor amnesia in there, it can feel at first a bit like you're being choked or something. So be gentle, but just know that it doesn't need to feel bad. It can feel very good, and that's what you're aiming for. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do, and this is why I had suggested some paperback books. So hopefully you have some, and you're just going to, I'm not going to try to grab some books, but you'll just have some books, and you want 2 or 3, maybe, depending on the thickness of them. And you're going to lie down on a fairly firm but padded surface like the floor. And you are going to lie down on one of your sides, whichever one you would like. So if there's one side of your face or head that would particularly appreciate a little bit of massage, then lie down on that side. And you're going to put the so you're, when you lie down on the side, it will be the general side lying position that I would normally give applies here. So you do like 90 with the hips and knees, and then you're going to have the books under the head. That's the purpose of the books, is to elevate the head so the head will be kind of not at too steep of an angle. You want the head to be kind of in alignment with the spine. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just not too steep, so it's reasonably comfortable. And then you are going to have your arms in whatever way is comfortable. I find having the shoulders off the back, arms straight in front of the torso on the floor is fairly comfortable for me. And so that would be what I would recommend that you attempt. But the idea here is you want to feel supported and comfortable. And then you probably are going to find that you're going to want to use your top hand. So if you're lying on the left side, it would be your right hand. If you're lying on the right side, it would be your left hand. In order to support the movement that you're about to do, probably to stabilize the books. The general idea here is that you want to kind of just make some circles on the book with your face, or the side of your face, or your ear, or the side of your head, or this whole general area, whatever feels good to you. But you're wanting to now I'm doing this just with my hands to demonstrate it, but you could just do it with the hands. I've found that I guess both have advantages and disadvantages. And I'll give you another variation before we're done, just in case you want another variation. But so, you just figure out, how do you do this? It involves, you have to move your body, your neck has to move. So it's a coordination thing. The jaw has to relax. And the skin has to relax. Go the other way. Now, I will say, if you've got a bunch of stuff like in the jaw and ear and temple and stuff, it can be quite a lot of sensation. So I want you to know that you should never hurt yourself. So don't try to power through something. So there's that side of it. And I will say that if there's a lot of unconsciousness, a lot of sensory motor amnesia, and a lot of habits of violence, even if you don't consider it to be violence, you can, in fact, hurt yourself. So be careful and don't hurt yourself. Be gentle. And I do want you to know that it's possible for you to let go more deeply of the resistance, to be softer, gentler with yourself, more accepting of yourself, more patient with yourself, more loving of yourself, and to just allow for all of that to start to occur. Really start to, send love to your head, send love to your jaw, send love to your face, send love to your ear. Really, I mean that. Intend that. Really intend, like, this can be a massage, and you say, I love you. It's okay. I appreciate you. Thank you. It's okay to soften. It's okay to be here. It's okay to let go. And just keep sincerely intending these things to your head and inside of your face. And then this temporalis here, big fan-like muscle, and just let it all. It can really start to move. It can really start to soften. The ear can move. It doesn't have to be all that pain and discomfort and rigidity and all that. That doesn't have to be there. So just know that that's possible, that that stuff can really, honest to goodness, can soften and let go. So then if you would like, you may go to the other side and do the other side. You don't have to, but if you would like, and do that, find a good way to do that if possible. And while you're doing that or not doing that, I'll just give you a few other tips on this. So one is, if you experience a lot of sensory motor amnesia, but if you get if there's old stuff in here and it's just not super receptive to massage, if it's just grippy and stuck and dry and that kind of thing, very resistant, very taut, or any of these kinds of things, then I really strongly encourage you to do a daily oil massage on this part of your body. Get on the back of the behind the ear, this where at the base of the skull, where the sternocleidomastoid connects. And because if that's really dry or whatever, if it's just sticky, then you really need to soften it. You need to get it. Think about it like old leather. Okay, this old kind of brittle leather, it needs to be conditioned. So you can't. It's not wanting to be supple and all that, because it's brittle, it's dry. So you want to get that oil massage every day, and just kind of get it worked in there. Just do like I'm demonstrating. You just roll, pinch a little bit and roll, and just kind of work the oil in and feel the flesh under there, and feel it really it should start to get conditioned. It should start to loosen up a little bit. Get wherever you feel that stuff, anywhere in here, do the oil massage. Be careful not to get oil in your eyes. It will burn, will sting. I mean, it would be very uncomfortable. So don't do that. And the usual precautions that I give so that you're safe. Don't slip, don't go excessive, don't, whatever, but just, and natural food, cold pressed oil, sesame oil is good general purpose. I mean, for some types, it won't be the best, but that's a good one. Okay, so that will be very helpful. Another thing I'll say is that, so if you I find lying on the side with the books works very well, because I really can, especially with the ear, can really free up the ear in a way that's harder to do, to get the kind of deeper pressure and consistent pressure on there is a little harder to do without the book. But you can do it like I'm doing, just with the palm. So the palm can be used, and you can do a fairly firm pressure on the ear and just kind of make circles on the ear. And you really want to get the ear very freed up so that the ear can really move. There's a bunch of little muscles connecting in with the ear, and boy, if that's pulling all the time, it's going to be very uncomfortable, and that's going to be constantly sending a lot of feedback noise into your nervous system. So all these little things we really want to take care of. In the face, the head, especially, there's a lot of representation in the nervous system. So if you've got stuff in the jaw, stuff in the ears, stuff in the face, and all of this stuff. So, and get in here on the cheeks and the chin. Just get all of this until it's all really nice and supple and feels good. You do that every day, and you'll be glad. If I hope that you find that helpful. The only last thing I'll say is another alternative. If you find that you don't want to have to use the hand because that's not giving you as good of a experience as you want, and you find the paperback books are too unstable and you can't figure out how to make that work for you, one other alternative position that I can suggest to you, but it's a little bit harder to describe. But you basically, from the position that the side lying position, you're gonna need to kind of push yourself up to keep your legs where they are. You don't need to do it right now, but I'm just going to give you the general idea. You would kind of push your torso up just enough that you can take the lower arm and you're going to externally rotate, and then you're going to come down so that your chest is on the floor, and your palm of the lower arm is touching the floor. That arm is externally rotated, and then the whole that shoulder and chest is on the floor, and the head is rotated to the other side, and the side of the head is on the floor, and you'd want something probably under your head, like a towel or something, but then it gives you a nice way to do this. So you'll feel a bit maybe like a cat or something rubbing their, or like goats do that. A lot of animals do that. This thing is all the yogis and the qigong masters and they all are looking to nature. That's why they see the healing in nature. They see that here's how the healing manifests in nature. That's why the poses are all mostly animal poses. So that's why in like, so yoga postures, you've got like, most of them are named after animals because they're the animals are the inspiration. The animals are manifesting the healing potential of nature that we can also connect to through those postures. But we're really connecting to the healing in nature that's manifested in those animals. And similarly with qigong, that they're like, and tai chi, has various sequences that are inspired by, there's the bear, crane, turtle. These are all common qigong inspirations. So cat, you could really be inspired by cat in this, because you notice I learned this from Annie Tho, by the way. Her content is very excellent. I really, unfortunately, don't make enough time to actually check it out, but when I do, it's very, very good. And she has a whole bunch of things on animal nature inspired Feldenkrais work. And that last position that I just described, I got from Annie Tho. I think it was in her Seal series. And so that's a seal inspired thing. So I guess seals do this, certainly. We've seen cats do it, the rubbing. Okay. And goats do it. I've seen horses do it. I've seen cows do it. So we should be doing it, perhaps, is the point. So I hope that you find this helpful. Thank you for being here. Thank you for staying, even though it went over time. And for those who are here live, we can stay on for the Q&A. And I'll just wrap up finally just by saying, especially for those who are on YouTube, but it's true for everybody who's here live as well, that I really endeavor to produce these in a way that is, transform your lives in positive ways. And so that's my sincere hope and my intention. And if any feedback that you can offer, well, any helpful feedback that you can offer is helpful, positive or negative though it may be. It's very helpful for me to know so that I can know what's working for you, where you're finding the challenges, where the instructions are not clear, where they are clear, and so forth. Anything else that you can let me know about what you're needing, hoping for, what's helping you, what's not, and so forth is helpful so that I can make this something that's truly valuable for you. So best place to do that, if possible, is in the online community, the circle at my website, joeylott.com. Other ways are also fine, if not optimal, because it makes it harder for me to maybe see all of them in one place. But YouTube comments are okay. Those who have the messenger group, you can leave feedback there. That's helpful. Email is also can work, although I apparently miss a lot of emails, not intentionally. So please do provide feedback. It will make this, I think, better for everybody. Because I really want this to be, my aim is that this is something that truly is worth every second, that it makes your life so much better. That's what I want. And I don't want to ever waste your time. I mean, I don't believe I am wasting your time, but I think sometimes if I don't know where you're at, I'm not sure how to best deliver what it is that's going to be most supportive for you. So that's it. Thank you. And I'll end this recording now.